Okay, hey everyone. Here's I'm going to give a pretty detailed tutorial or how-to video on how to use the new Advanced Editor. To get started with Advanced Editor, head over to the document templates. What we're going to do is we're going to click on any of the existing templates and then click on Switch to Advanced Editor. If you don't have Switch to Advanced Editor, you might have another button like Try Advanced Editor. I'll give you an example. So if you've never used the Advanced Editor, you will see Try Advanced Editor, and then it will switch you to the Advanced Editor. Okay, so we're gonna click here. Now the first thing you'll see is that it'll suggest a starting template to start with. And this is useful because I don't recommend that you start from scratch. Instead, pick a template that is as close as possible to the one that you want to get to, and then start changing from it. So you have a few templates here: dual language, single language, and then you have the retail thermal printer templates. Let's start with this template, which is the dual language, and I'm going to click customize. Okay, so now I'm in the Advanced Editor. So first, in terms of concept, how does the editor work? You will see highlighted in yellow what is called like document fields. In this case, I created an invoice template, so I'm going to see invoice fields. So these are placeholders for invoice fields that will later on be populated with the actual invoice data once the system generates the invoice preview or the PDF. So you have the organization fields, then you will have the invoice fields. So let's have a look at all the fields that are available. If you click on invoice fields here, they're organized by groups. So you have the fields that are specific to the invoice at the invoice level. So for example, the title of the document, the currency, the exchange rate, the balance, and so on. There's a bunch of fields. And then you have the line items fields. So these are fields specific to the line items. Now, as you can see here, they're inactive. I cannot click them because I'm not inside the line items table. Okay, so these are all the fields that are available. Another way and convenient way to insert fields is while you're typing in the editor. If you type /, you will get access to all the fields grouped by group. Okay, so we talked about the fields. Now let's talk about the line items table. Now, in the editor, you have this elements button. So in the elements button, there's two types of elements. There's special elements and other elements. Special elements are predefined elements that Wafeq makes available for you to insert. So for example, the line items table has special treatment in Wafeq because first of all, of course, that you only define the format for or the layout or the design for a single line. And then when Wafeq generates the invoice, it replicates this design for each line item in the invoice. Okay, and the line items table, you can only have one line item table in a document. So here it's already added. And then you have the VAT summary table. So in this case, it's not added. So if I want to add it, let's say after or before the notes, I'm going to go to elements and then I'm going to insert the VAT summary table. So the VAT summary table, you might want to add it to show a breakdown per tax rate. It also includes the exchange rate. And I'll talk about how you can hide this exchange rate in case the invoice is in the same currency as your organization currency. And then we have the totals table. So the totals table is this table. So it shows you all the possible rows available in totals. So what you need to display an accurate net due are all of these. I'll show you how you can hide some of them if they are not present, or if, for example, if you don't deal with retention, you're not in contracting, you can either just delete this line, or if you are in contracting, but let's say you do not want retention to show on a specific invoice because it's 0, I'll show you also how to. And then you have the footer table. So the footer table is what shows up on each page in the PDF at the bottom. I'm going to save my changes. Okay, so we've done tables. Let's say now you want to remove a column on the line items. So you can do that. So let's say I don't want the quantity to show because I sell services and all I need is the price. The quantity in my invoices is always 1. So I can just right click and then I can do delete column. And then here I want to adjust, I want to give more width to the description. Okay, done. Now maybe I want to add the unit of measure here, for example. So I'm going to add since I'm inside the line items table, I can go to the line item fields and then I can type here for example, for unit of measure. I can insert it. Maybe I sell in by the hour and so on. And again, a reminder, all of this data, this is dummy data given to you by the template so you can see how your invoice looks like. Okay, so don't worry too much about what's in there. And so here I'm going to align it. Taxable amount, I want that. The tax amount, so this is the tax rate is here. The discount, so this is typically in percent. So let's say I'm going to add a percentage character here and then the amount. Okay, so I've done some customizations here on the line items table. Oh, one thing is, for example, this is the line item. This is the photo on the line item. So if you create a line item, if you deal with products or services, let's go to products and services and item. So if the item has a photo, you can choose to include the photo in the line item table, or you can put it anywhere you want. So let's say this will be the location and the size of the photo if the item you've chosen has a photo. So let's give it a quick try. So I'm going to click save here. So this is my template. Let me try to create a new invoice for, let's say, this iPhone, because this iPhone has an image. If I choose the iPhone, now if I click preview, I need to first select, I need to refresh first to get the new template since I create my template, and then I'm going to choose here iPhone. Okay, if I click preview now here, this is the image of the item. It looks great. Okay, next let's talk about joint fields. So joint fields are super useful when you're dealing with optional fields or fields that may not be present, especially, for example, when it's about addresses, about customer addresses. So let's say typically what you would think is, let's say you want to build your invoice layout, and for the customer address, you want to insert the fields as, so you go to contact here, I want to add the address, okay? And then let's say I'm gonna put comma, and then I want to add the, so it's typically, district, comma, and then I'm going to continue here with a /. So if I go to the contact, city, and then comma, and then postal code, and then comma, and then country. What you want is actually, it would be nice if you have a way to say, okay, don't show the address row if, let's say, the address is empty. And that's what both joint fields are and cell visibility feature is. So let's see how that would work. So first thing I want to do is I don't want to show these empty commas. So this is so instead of defining these addresses like this individually and manually separating them with a comma, I'm gonna create a joint field. So I'm gonna say I want to insert a joint field, and I'm gonna say that this is the contact address joint field. And then I want the parts to be separated with a comma. And then here I'm gonna just define which fields I want to join. So I'm gonna join the contact address, and then the district, and then the city, and then the postal code, and then the country, and insert. So you can see the joint field is colored differently, so you can tell them apart. Now I think I missed the space here. The separator should be actually comma and then space. Okay. And so now if I save this and let's reload here, because Amazon has no address, you will see that it will just show as an empty cell, okay, which is a big improvement over just showing commas. Now, what I want to do further is I don't want to show this row at all if the address is, or the joint field is empty. And you can do that with cell visibility, or the cell visibility feature. Now, and this is available only inside table cells. So let's say you have a table cell and you want to hide the cell if some condition is met. So you write, so I want to apply this condition to these cells, so which represent the address row. So I'm going to select all of them, right click, and then cell visibility. So here you configure the condition. You say, okay, I want the joint field contact address joint field. If it's not provided, so if it's empty essentially, then I want to hide the cell. So it says hide if contact address joint field is not provided. And I'm going to click save. Okay. Now you can tell whether there's a condition applied on the cell by clicking this formula kind of type of button. If you click this formula type of button, it shows you which cells have a condition applied to them. We just applied the condition to the address. Now there are other cells where there's a condition applied because I started with a template, and the templates in Wafeq that you start with, they all have some reasonably like good initial conditions. So for example, this one will hide this cell if the VAT number is not provided, so that you don't end up with a text that just says VAT number and then nothing after it. Okay. Now let me save this and let's go back to our invoice and let's reload this page. So you will see the address is no longer appearing because the joint field for the address is empty. Now, this is a very flexible, so cell visibility plus joint fields give you a lot of flexibility in terms of showing things that are conditional or optional. Similarly here, you can see, for example, I haven't used the retention. In this invoice, retention is empty, discount is empty. And the templates that you start with in Wafeq already have discount, even total VAT, retention that are conditional. So in the case of, for example, discount, the condition is if you go to cell visibility, if discount amount is equals to 0, then there's no need to show that row, right? So that's a much better way to present your invoice. So let's have a look at some page setup configurations. So you can click on page. There's different page sizes that you can use, different orientations you can use. You can set a background on your page also, and then you can define your margins. If you want to preview your work, you can just click preview to see how it looks like. And you can see here it populated additional line items. So you can see how the invoice looks like with more line items. It also applies all the conditions, the visibility conditions. For example, the sample data that Wafeq provides does not have retention, does not have discounts. So you can see these columns are hidden. You can see here something small. For example, this is the padding around the cell. Of course, you have the QR code. This is if in Saudi only. This is the Zatka QR code. You can change its location. Of course, you can do anything you want on this editor. Okay, the final advice is that whenever you're designing your own template, start by scaffolding the template with tables. So tables give you maximum flexibility, and they allow you to align things properly the way you wanted them to look.